Human behavior is perhaps one of the most interesting topics of any discipline, as it plays a significant role not only in understanding the individual's unique personality, but also his or her functioning in a complex sociocultural context. Psychology, with its major perspectives, core concepts, and recent developments, unravel the mystery behind human behavior through scientific scrutiny of this topic. These are the objectives of the course: analyze and explain the definition of psychology, identify and expound the goals of psychology, discuss the significance of studying psychology, trace the history of psychology and the development of different schools of thoughts, distinguish the different perspectives in studying psychology, gain familiarity with the terms relevant to the topic, and enumerate and explain the different areas of specialization in psychology. The earliest origins of psychology are found in the writings of ancient Greek philosophers about the nature of human life, particularly in the work of Aristotle. He used the term psyche to refer to the essence of life. This term is translated in Greek to mean mind, but it is closely linked to the word breath. The term psychology comes from Aristotle's word psyche plus the Greek word logos, which means the study of. Psychology is defined as the science of behavior and mental processes. This definition contains three key terms: science, behavior, and mental processes. Behavior refers to all of a person's overt and actions that others directly observe. When you walk, speak, or frown, you are behaving in this sense. The term mental processes refer to the private thoughts, emotions, feelings, and motives that other people cannot directly observe. Your private thoughts and feelings about your dog catching a frisbee in midair are examples of mental processes. Finally, it is considered as a science because psychologists attempts to understand people by thinking critically about careful, controlled observations. The four goals of the science of psychology are to describe, predict, understand, and influence behavior and mental processes. First, describe. Information gathered in scientific studies helps psychologists describe behavior and mental processes accurately. For example, descriptive information gathered in a survey of the frequency of sexual behavior among college students without the protection of condoms would be an important first step in designing a program to prevent the spread of sexually transmitted diseases such as AIDS. Next, predict. Psychologists have developed tests that enable employers to predict more accurately which job applicants will perform their jobs well. Third, understand. Behavior and mental processes can be understood using theories or tentative explanations of facts and relationships in science. Fourth, influence. Psychologists design interventions that would help a teenage boy with severe depression, or to help college students select their careers, or help parents raise a child with conduct disorder. Let us now proceed to learning more about the early approaches of psychology. We will look into Structuralism, Functionalism, Gestalt psychology, and Psychoanalytic theory. Traditionally, psychology's birth is linked with the first psychology laboratory, which was established by Wilhelm Wundt in 1879 at the University of Leipzig in Germany. As you will see, some of the people who brought psychology into the scientific arena were trained as physicians. Others were more philosophical in nature. However, these differences produced a field that was broad and complex, with many avenues of exploration. Wilhelm Wundt, Edward Titchener, and Structuralism. For Wilhelm Wundt, the goal of psychology was to study conscious processes of the mind and the body. Wundt's view that mental experiences were created by different elements is referred to as structuralism. To identify the structure of thought, British psychologist Titchener used the process known as introspection, that is a self-observation technique. Max Wertheimer, a professor of psychology at the University of Frankfurt in the early 1900s, was also interested in the nature of conscious experience. However, his ideas about consciousness were quite different from those of the structuralists. He led a group of psychologists known as Gestalt psychologists. Their approach to psychology was based on the German concept of Gestalt, or whole. Gestalt psychologists thought that human consciousness could not be meaningfully broken down into raw elements, as structuralists tried to do. For them, the whole is different from the sum of its parts. William James and the Functionalism. American psychologist and philosopher William James proposed a focus on the wholeness of an event and the impact of the environment on behavior. He came to believe that consciousness and thought evolved through the process of natural selection to help the organism adapt to its environment. James's perspective on psychology became known as functionalism. Sigmund Freud and psychoanalytic theory. Sigmund Freud is probably the best known historical figure in psychology. Freud came to believe that the unconscious plays a crucial role in human behavior. For Freud, the unconscious was the part of the mind that includes impulses, behaviors, and desires that we are unaware of but influence our behavior. Freud's focus on the unconscious was unique and led to his formulation of psychoanalytic theory. According to this theory, humans are similar to animals in that they possess basic sexual and aggressive instincts that motivate behavior. Unlike animals, humans can reason and think, especially as they mature. Behaviorism, a true science of psychology. Behaviorists believe that only overt, observable behaviors could truly be measured consistently from person to person. John B. Watson's Behaviorism. One of the most vocal proponents of this school of thought was American psychologist John B. Watson. Watson was influenced by Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov's studies of digestion in dogs. Pavlov's experiments were important to Watson as examples of how behavior is the product of stimuli and responses. A stimulus is any object or event that is perceived by our senses. A response is an organism's reaction to a stimulus. For Watson, that observable stimuli and responses should be the focus of psychology. B.F. Skinner and behavioral consequences. Skinner, like Watson, believed that psychology should focus on observable behavior. But Skinner added a dimension to Watson's framework, consequences. He believed that psychologists should look not only at the stimuli in the environment that cause a particular response, but also at what happens to a person or animal after the response. What Skinner called the consequence of the behavior. What are the other approaches apart from behaviorism? We will tackle more about humanism, cognitive psychology, and the birth of positive psychology. Behaviorism was a dominant force in American psychology until the 1960s. By that time, it became evident that this one theory could not account for all behaviors. Behaviors such as feelings and thoughts could not easily be reduced to stimuli and responses. This criticism, combined with the social climate of the time, opened the door for other views on behavior and a willingness to explore topics previously ignored. The Humanists. Humanists emphasize that everyone possesses inner resources for personal growth and development. The goal of humanistic therapy, therefore, would be to help people use these inner resources to make healthier choices and thus lead better lives. Humanism stressed the free will of individuals to choose their own patterns of behavior. Cognitive psychology. While humanism was changing how psychologists were treating clients, changes were also occurring in research psychology. Unlike the earlier Functionalism and Structuralism, this new study of mental processes was based on more objective experimental methods. Acknowledging that mental processes are not directly observable to the eye, scientists believe that reasonable inferences about mental processes could be made from performance data. The birth of positive psychology. Led by American psychologists Martin Seligman and Ed Titchener, positive psychology has produced an explosion of research over the past decade, describing the factors that contribute to happiness, positive emotions, and well-being. By scientifically studying positive aspects of human behavior, the goal of positive psychology is to enable individuals, families, and communities to thrive.